Hello and welcome to another episode of the Phoenix Wisdom Podcast. I am here today with my guest, James Donaldson. James, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Jen. It's great to see you and great to be on your program today and talk about a very, very important topic. So I'm glad
Yes, it is. Why don't we start off? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live in Seattle, Washington. I've been up here over 40 plus years or so. Graduated from Washington State University and had a long career in the NBA with professional basketball. So I was drafted by the Seattle Supersonics. And that was that was my first team. So I played with them for 3 years. 80 to 83, went down to the San Diego Clippers at the time and played with them. And then the whole team moved up to Los Angeles for the Los Angeles Clippers and them for a total of 3 years. After that, on to the Dallas Mavericks for 6 years, where we had some very good teams and I was an all-star player things. Was there in Dallas for 7 years. And then on to the New York Knicks for a year. Loved it over there and great players, great coach. The old Laker coach, Pat Riley, was our coach and all the great players, of course. And then finished up with the Utah Jazz with John Stockton, Karl Malone, Jerry Sloan was the coach. Great teams, great players. Interspersed at the end, going back and forth to play in Europe as well. So altogether, 2 years in Spain, 2 years in Italy, 2 years in Greece.
Wow.
A 20-year basketball career, and I'm still walking around without really any aches or pains or anything.
That's amazing.
So I held up pretty well.
That's good. You'll have to forgive me. I am not a basketball fan.
That's okay. That's okay.
But I was sitting here looking at you in your chair going, he looks kind of tall.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all right. Well, and I am tall. I'm 7'2", so I can't.
Okay, so yeah.
People see me, they associate basketball right away. But, a lot of other things afterwards. I had a long 28-year career running a small business in physical therapy and sports medicine in the Seattle area, multiple locations. Finally closed all that down in 2018. And then in 2020, started up my nonprofit foundation called Your Gift of Life Foundation, because life is truly the most important gift that we all have. A lot of time now speaking to different groups of business folks or schools, middle schools and high schools in particular, around the state of Washington, talking to the kids, the young people about mental health and suicide prevention. So that's what my focus is now. It took years to get here, but that's where I am.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works sometimes. It just takes us a while to get where we never thought we'd go.
I agree. I knew nothing about mental health challenges, issues like that before I went through them myself. Now I know, and now I'm so empathetic and so sympathetic for people who are dealing with those kind of things. And that's my whole next chapter of life, is really trying to make a difference in that area.
Good. Well, why don't we learn a little bit more about those challenges that you went through?
Yes.
What was going on?
Well, everything was going just great. I had a nice life going and everything, all the accomplishments, and still in very good physical shape all the way till about 57 years of age. It's 10 years ago now. And, one day I just wasn't feeling good out on the golf course with some of my buddies and, severe lower back pain and nausea and sweating profusely and short breath. So I stopped the golf game and drove myself over to see my family doctor, and actually had a blackout spell right there in the reception area of his office. So I barely made it. He diagnosed me and determined it was my heart that was giving me problems. Threw me in the ambulance and emergency open heart surgery for 12 and a half hours.
Oh my gosh.
As a medically induced coma for 2 weeks and intensive care for 3 months.
Oh my goodness.
This is 2015, January 3rd. So I just had my 10-year anniversary. So this was diagnosed as a aortic dissection, where the layers of the aorta, the big vessel that comes off your heart, has 3 different layers to it. And blood sometimes will seep in between those layers, making it very high risk to rupture. If it ruptures, your heart beats 10, 15 more times, and that's about it.
Right.
You just bleed out. Mine was right on the verge of rupturing, and luckily I got to the doctor in time. Luckily they found it and diagnosed it and repaired it. So that was 2015. That was just the ascending aorta, the upper one.
Mm.
And they came back and did the descending aorta, and another 2 months in intensive care. My life really went upside down for those 2 years, 15 and 16. 2018, I was back in the hospital for a arterial bypass up here in my shoulder neck area. And in 2020, because of all the very invasive surgeries, my nerves that controlled my right lung were damaged, and my right lung partially paralyzed and shrunk up upon itself. So they had to go in there in 2020 and expand that back out.
Oh my goodness.
So, 4 major surgeries in 5 years. And, everything that I had worked so hard for just fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
I had lost my home I lived in for 40 years to foreclosure, went through a bankruptcy. My mother had passed away in 2016. My wife just picked up and walked out of the marriage in 2017.
Oh my goodness.
Business closed in 2018. All those dollars I had saved, the savings I had from the NBA, just vanished because I kept pumping it all into my business to keep it going good. And eventually just exhausted all my savings, and I had nothing left, and still trying to recover from the surgeries. And so about 2018 was the worst of times, because this was when I was at my lowest point emotionally, and just not really feeling that life was worth living anymore.
Yeah.
Looked around and lost everything I worked for. I was a shell of myself as far as being able to run or walk or, play golf or do anything. Physically, I couldn't do anything anymore. Just was so compromised. And my doctors, my cardiac surgeon, my cardiologist told me that many times after serious cardio surgeries, people do suffer bouts of depression, and they don't quite understand why, the correlation. Maybe because you come so close to realizing your own mortality or something, but something is triggered in the minds of so many people, and it was triggered in me too. Where,
Interesting.
yeah, I really started thinking that life was just not worth living, and there wasn't anything to hang in there for. And that was when I had my worst, the depths of my despair.
Mm-hmm.
I realized something was wrong. I wasn't sleeping through the night. I was anxious all day. So I finally made an appointment to see my doctor, and he took some extra time. He pushed back a couple of the patients and gave me 30, 40 minutes. And he said, James, wow, you're suffering from, depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts. We need to get you help. He did. And that's what I did. I followed suit. I said, hey, he signed me up for some behavioral health counselors to talk to, put me on prescription medications for the anxiety and depression. And, I pulled together a small little group of friends to try to help me through this, friends who had known me for about 40 years or so. And they were there. They were right there for me throughout. So still, in a way, I'm still alone. The house was empty. The wife was gone. Everything was gone. But I had my real close friends who were checking in on me, and I was checking with them every day. And I think that's really what helped me get through. So I think it was me realizing something was wrong, being diagnosed properly, but I had my plan all mapped out, how I was going to exit this world. It's still very emotional, even when I think about it and talk about it now, to realize how close I was. I didn't attempt suicide. I just had my plans forced. Yeah. So that's kind of my story. And that was just 5 years ago now, 6 years ago.
Mm.
And that darkness lasted for about 12 months, all through 2018. And finally, at the end of 2018, the darkness started lifting a little bit. I'm a man of faith and believe in God, and, a Christian, go to church so I have a strong relationship with God, and I believe he's there taking care of me and watched over me through all of this. And so I had this vision of, once that darkness started lifting at the end of 2018, of, okay, I've lost everything. What in the world can I do now?
Right.
And I remember God telling me, saying, hey, James, before this, you knew nothing about mental health issues, mental health challenges. Now you know. I let you go through that so you know, and you learn firsthand experience. you still have a platform that you can get out there and talk and speak to people. My NBA basketball platform and being 7 feet tall and being a man and being an African American man. But I've got all these different platforms that people are willing and happy to listen to me about something as serious as this. And that's when I started the Your Gift of Life Foundation in 2020. And that's been my focus, my sole focus ever since.
Amazing. Amazing. I love hearing these stories from people where they, take what they've been through and they turn it around to help other people going through the same thing, which is obviously what I'm doing with the podcast. But yeah, just there's so many different ways to help people and talk about it. And yeah, especially with your platforms, like you said, you can do that. But going back to your story, like I'm still stuck on, like, you were on the golf course and then you were in the ICU for 3 months. Like, there was no time to mentally prepare for that. It was just like, I'll just go to the doctor, go to the hospital, and then, emergency surgery, and you're there for that long without having any mental or physical preparation, like nothing.
Yeah. Luckily, one of the guys I was golfing with was my very best friend, who I had known for about 40 years. And so he kind of took over of things that needed to be done while I was in the hospital, while I was in a coma, medically induced coma.
Yeah.
And ICU with tubes running in and out of me. I mean, he was running my wife back and forth to the hospital every day. She didn't drive at the time or didn't have a car. He was taking care of, making sure that, they had food in the house and making sure that took them shopping. He was there at my bedside every single day. And so having a dear friend like that, who I just lost in October, he just passed away. He had his own heart issues. I wasn't quite diligent about staying on top of it as I am. And just kind of brushed it off, and went back to his condo one day in October and died 2 or 3 days later. So, but he was the one that really got me through.
Yeah, it's so important. And we talk about this a lot on the podcast, like the importance of community and having people, whether it's, actual family or if it's just people who act like family, having those friends and those relationships to help you through this stuff is so important.
So true. Well, and besides working with young people, I love working with students. My other real passion is working with men. Trying to get men to do better and be better than what we have been doing or being, to put a small group of friends around them. Most men are lone wolves out there doing their own thing, won't ask for help, won't admit they have a problem, do a lot of detrimental behaviors that make the problem worse.
Don't go to the doctor when they need to.
Don't go to the doctor. won't listen to the girlfriend, won't listen to the wife, won't tell her that he's having a problem. And this is men. This is men's typical behavior. And so I just started up a YouTube channel called Your Gift of Life for Men. And speaking directly on video to men on how we can do better and be better. I've been through all this. I had to learn how to be in touch with my emotions, how to be in touch with my feelings, how to ask for help, how to let people see my vulnerability, my weakness. But, being a competitive athlete, you don't dare do that.
Right.
Being a military guy, you don't dare do that. But there comes a point in life where you have to do that and just let people know that you need help. And that's what I'm trying to talk to our guys about.
I love that. So needed, both for reaching the kids. I volunteer at the crisis text line, and so many of the people who text in are kids because they're more comfortable with texting, for one thing. They're not going to be making a phone call when they need help. They're going to text.
That's right.
But there's so many of them, and so much of why they're feeling this despair is that they don't have friends, family, community support. And they just feel so alone and they don't have anyone to talk to. So the fact that you're going and talking to them directly at that age, whether they're going through something or hopefully before they ever get to that point, so that it's on their radar and just being like, this is a thing. Because as adults, we don't talk about it, but we certainly don't talk to the kids about it and just be like, this is a thing that a lot of people go through.
Yes.
It's okay. And just talk to people, talk about it when you're hurting.
Well, I know even during my school presentations, there's always a handful of the kids, and I might speak to 400 or 500 kids in the assembly at a time. there's always 4, 5, 6 of them that come up afterwards and want to talk to me one-on-one. And these are 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds. They'll tell me that they're suicidal right now. They don't know through the night. 12-year-old. Sometimes they speak up in the audience even, and they have their friends around them and they say, hey, I'm suicidal right now. I'm transgender. I'm a boy that wants to be a girl. And I'm like, that's the life these kids are living. And they don't know, because they haven't had a lot of life events and life challenges yet. At 12 and 14, they haven't had a bunch of adversity. Usually the first adverse situation they have to encounter, and they don't know who to talk to. They don't know how to talk to anybody. Can't talk to their parents, of course, as a teenager. They should, but they don't. But they see my story, they hear my story, and they say, wow, James has been through this. He understands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, as adults, we know who the safe people are.
Yeah.
There's school guidance counselors, there's, people at church, pastors, or just regular other people who go to church, just other members of the congregation. There's safe people everywhere, but the kids they kind of don't put two and two together.
No.
They're like, oh, well, school guidance counselors or school counselors, they're just for me to help figure out my timetable. No, they're actually there for you to talk to.
That's
and
right.
People at church are there for you to talk to. That's why we have that community, is to support each other.
And
they just don't have the life experience to know that those people are there for.
They just don't realize that yet. But
and teachers at school, it doesn't even have to be the counselor. Like if you have a favorite teacher, you can talk to them.
That's part of my presentation to them, is encourage them to talk to somebody. If you can't talk to your parents, talk to your best friend's parents. Those parents they'll definitely sit and talk with you. Yeah. But because mental health is one of those things that people don't know you're going through it unless you let them know you're going through it.
Yeah.
You can't see it from the outside. So you've got to be the one to reach out and tell people. And it's 12 and 14. It's hard when you're, a grown up even.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do when you're suffering from mental health challenges. You've got to push yourself out there, or at least get on the crisis hotline, or, suicide prevention. Do something. You have to. Yeah. So, but yeah, this is what's got me into the work I do. And it's by far the most rewarding work I've ever done. I mean, I'd trade all those basketball years and business years in a moment for what I'm doing now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know you have a book.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, going through what I went through, I was fully cognizant of what I was going through and just trying to figure it out. And so I made a lot of mental notes and a lot of written down notes of my journey that lasted 12 months. I call it 12 months of pure hell, pure darkness and hell, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. I took a lot of those memories and thoughts and put it in a book form. And it's called Celebrating Your Gift of Life. I got a copy right here, matter of fact. Celebrating Your Gift of Life. From the Verge of Suicide, Back to a Life of Purpose and Joy is the subtitle.
Beautiful.
Exactly where I'm back. Back to a life of purpose and joy. Because I had lost my purpose. I had lost my joy. And this book tells my story. And at the end of every chapter, there's nice little, lined pages where you can actually write in the book.
Oh, I love that.
The book asks you a lot of self-introspective type of questions to get you to think and to get you really understanding where you are in your journey. And so it's been a great book. It's got a few photos in there, some basketball stuff, of course, and things in my life. So it's a really nice book that I think is helping thousands and thousands of people so far. You can pick it up on the website to the book. Is the title itself, celebratingyourgiftoflife.com. And those orders come directly to me. And then I sign off on it and drop it in the mail back to you. Or, of course, the online retailers have it. They're not going to sign it for you, but but that's the Celebrating Your Gift of Life. And it's all about celebrating each and every moment, each and every day of this great gift of life that we have.
What are the best ways to do that, to celebrate the gift of life?
Well, I think just, realizing, having gratitude, being grateful. There's the old saying, you don't have to look too far to see how tremendously blessed you are. But you lose that in the midst of your mental. It's all about you in that moment. And the world is terrible, it's dark, it's ugly. And how are you going to get out of this? How are you going to work your way out of it? But there's a lot of people millions of people at this moment around this country that are going through mental health challenges right now. Hundreds of thousands of them will attempt to take their lives this month. And unfortunately, thousands of them will take their lives this month. We hit 50,000 suicides a year now, the last couple of years. And it's just tragic. So it's not unusual. It's not abnormal for you to have thoughts of suicidal ideations from time to time. That's normal. It's when they stay with you and they keep grinding your days on end, weeks on end, you can't get out of it. They have it just come and go. Hey, everybody has those kind of thoughts from time to time. And so the book talks about a lot of these things. But I think being grateful, realizing that every day is a blessing. I am so glad that I am still here to take a morning walk with my dog, to, see the sun come up, to just enjoy the simple little things in nature all around me that I just took for granted. It's like,
Yeah.
but now I don't. And I see everything. I acknowledge everything. To still be able to be here, to go out and talk to the kids and know that I'm making a difference in so many of their lives. To see kids up in the audience crying or walking out of the auditorium session because they're just emotionally falling apart. And I may point out to the counselors and to the principal and to the teachers, please, you need to check in on that person.
Yeah.
Right away. So I know I'm making a big difference in the work that I'm doing. I've got a daily blog that I put out, and just talking about mental health challenges. Anxiety and anger was one I put out today about children and how to deal with a child who's anxious and angry. So there's so much to it, and I just try to stay in my little lane. There's a lot of chemical imbalances, a lot of other different forms of mental challenge.
Yeah.
Bipolar, PTSD, all these other things. I'm just dealing with, a lot of times life events that just get beyond it.
Yeah.
Most
Situational.
most of the time out of our control, sometimes in our control.
Mm-hmm.
But mine was totally outside of my control. Just my life went upside down and boom, it could happen to anybody at any time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice would you leave with somebody who is going through it right now?
Please call somebody. Call. Let your loved ones know that you're having a problem. Most of us just don't want to do that. So we suffer in silence. We suffer alone. But you have to let somebody. This is too heavy to carry by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have somebody there with you. And a lot of people don't want to get involved because they don't know what to say. It's like, if I say the wrong word, I might trigger them and they will commit suicide. Well, that's shown not to be true.
Correct.
NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, which I'm a board member, just put out a newsletter this month saying or asking if are you going to commit suicide is not a triggering word as we thought it used to be.
Yeah.
But you have to ask people. And
they already have the ideas. You're not putting anything into their heads.
That's right.
You're just opening the door to let people talk about it.
Yes.
By naming it.
And I think a lot of times you bring some relief to them because they know now that maybe
Yeah.
You know they're struggling, saying you're asking them about it. So now they can feel a little bit more comfortable talking about it. So those are things that we all need to be conscious of when you're in the middle of this kind of thing. First and foremost, call somebody. And maybe as soon as you start realizing there's a problem, make sure you see your family doctor. Don't try to self-diagnose this thing. And, let the professionals be professional and figure out what you're going through. Very, very much against, prescription medications, unless I just definitely have to take it. I took them for 6 months because the doctor thought it'd be the best thing for me. Anti-anxiety, anti-depression. I didn't feel any tremendous change in me, but the doctor said, hey, this is going to help.
Just takes the edge off.
Yeah, it takes the edge off, quickly balance things out again.
Yeah.
So it seemed to work. After 6 months, I felt much better. And he said, okay, you don't need to take it anymore. So
yeah, it's not necessarily like a lifelong commitment once you start taking medication. It's not necessarily, sometimes it helps and people, want to stay on it, but you don't have to.
Yeah. But it doesn't just lift all the clouds all the way and you're jumping over buildings in a single bound all of a sudden. No, it's a slow process.
And you still have to do the work yourself.
Yes. There's a lot of work to do. So I think those are the first couple steps. Let somebody know that you're struggling, having a problem, and call your family doctor. Get in and see them. and they'll decide your course of action for you.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story and doing your work in the world. You're touching and helping so many people, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just still so glad to be here. Every day. Just, I get a moment during the day and I say, Lord, thank you. I'm still here. And it's just every day is a blessing.
It really is.
That's how I approach it. From here on out, the rest of my journey, I'll be doing this kind of work because that's what God allowed me to be here still for.
Yeah.
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 So thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for the opportunity to tell my story. And I hope folks go out and get a Celebrating a Lift God Gift of Life book. Order it from my website. I'll sign my little note in there for you and drop it in the mail to you. So no problem.
Awesome. I'll be doing that later.
Thank you. Okay. I'm so glad we got a chance to do this. Thank you very much.
Me too.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. Remember that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valuable, you are meant for more, and that it really does get better. If you are in crisis, there are numbers that you can call or text to get the help that you need. That information for Canada and the US is in the description below each episode. If you are in immediate crisis, please call 911. We love you, and I hope you'll listen again.